Welcome to Concrete Block, the podcast where we dive into the latest news and current events from around the world. I'm your host, Walter, and I'm glad you're joining us today. We're starting off with a story that's been dominating headlines for months now: the conflict in Gaza. The situation on the ground is dire, with reports of intense bombardment, evacuations, and a growing humanitarian crisis. According to recent reports, Israel has begun ceasefire talks with Hamas in Qatar, with the U.S. playing an active role in mediating the negotiations. The talks are aiming to secure the release of Israeli hostages and potentially lead to a temporary ceasefire. However, it's unclear whether these talks will yield any meaningful results, given the long-standing disagreements between the two sides. Meanwhile, the situation on the ground continues to deteriorate. Palestinians in northern Gaza are fleeing their homes due to intense Israeli strikes, with many taking only what little food they have left. The Indonesian hospital in Jabalia has gone out of service due to the bombardment, leaving many without access to medical care. Israel has been blocking all food, medicine, and supplies into Gaza for 11 weeks now, citing its desire to pressure Hamas into agreeing to a ceasefire on favorable terms. However, this blockade has sparked widespread international criticism, with many warning of a looming famine in the region. In response to growing pressure, Israel is reportedly planning to resume food supplies to Gaza through a U.S.-led initiative. The plan would involve distributing aid to those who move to a designated zone in southern Gaza, cordoned off by the Israeli military. However, this proposal has been met with skepticism from some quarters, with concerns that it may be used as a tool for military purposes rather than purely humanitarian ones. As we continue to follow this story, it's essential to remember the human cost of this conflict. The people of Gaza are facing unimaginable hardship, and it's crucial that we prioritize their safety and well-being in any efforts to resolve this crisis. We'll be keeping a close eye on developments in Gaza and bringing you updates as more information becomes available. For now, let's take a step back and consider the complexities of this situation and the need for a fair and balanced approach to finding a resolution. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're glad you're still with us as we dive into our second story of the day. Today, we're taking a closer look at the recent presidential election in Romania, where voters have made their voices heard in a highly anticipated runoff. Romania's political landscape has been marked by years of endemic corruption and growing anger towards the country's establishment, leading to a surge in support for anti-establishment and hard-right figures. This trend is not unique to Romania, as we've seen similar patterns emerge across Europe. In this election, two candidates, Dan and Simeon, have made their careers railing against the old political class, but with differing visions for the country's future. Dan, a 55-year-old mathematician and civic activist, ran on a pro-European Union ticket, emphasizing Western ties, support for Ukraine, and fiscal reform. On the other hand, Simeon, a former activist who campaigned for reunification with neighboring Moldova, focused on reforms aimed at slashing red tape, reducing bureaucracy and taxes, with an emphasis on restoring democracy and returning the will of the people to the forefront. As the results came in, Dan emerged victorious, with EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen extending her congratulations and noting that Romanians turned out massively to vote for an open, prosperous Romania within a strong Europe. Meanwhile, Simeon predicted a victory earlier in the day but ultimately conceded, calling for vigilance against election fraud while expressing satisfaction with the overall conduct of the vote. It's worth noting that this election has left Romania divided, with a significant portion of voters upset with the direction of the country. As Christian Andrei, a Bucharest-based political consultant, pointed out, Romanians rejected hate and reactionary politics and embraced the pro-Western direction for their country. But there is still a large part of the electorate that feels disenfranchised. As we analyze this story, it's essential to recognize the complexities at play in Romanian politics. Both candidates tapped into the frustrations of the electorate, but their proposed solutions differed significantly. The outcome of this election will likely have far-reaching implications for Romania's relationships with Europe and its internal governance. We'll continue to monitor developments in Romania and provide updates as more information becomes available. For now, it's clear that the country is at a crossroads, and the path forward will depend on the ability of its leaders to address the deep-seated concerns of its citizens. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're wrapping up today's show with a look at the latest news from Portugal, where the country is holding its third general election in just 3 years. The election was triggered by a confidence vote that went against the government, and it's been marked by controversy and scandal. Now, let's take a closer look at what's been going on. The current Prime Minister, Dr. Luis Montenegro, has been accused of potential conflicts of interest related to his family's law firm, which has sparked outrage among voters. Meanwhile, the hard-right populist party Chega, led by Andrei Ventura, has been gaining traction with its tough stance on immigration and corruption. But Chega itself has not been without controversy. Some of its lawmakers have been embroiled in scandals, including one who allegedly stole suitcases from an airport and sold the contents online. Despite these challenges, Chega is expected to perform well in the election, thanks in part to its popular stance on immigration. Immigration is a major issue in Portugal right now, with many voters feeling that the country is being overwhelmed by newcomers. The government has announced plans to expel thousands of foreigners who are living in the country without proper documentation, which has sparked accusations of xenophobia and racism. Housing is another key issue in this election. House prices and rents have been soaring in Portugal, making it difficult for many people to afford a place to live. The problem is particularly acute in Lisbon, where prices have risen by over 7% in the past year alone. As we look at the bigger picture, it's clear that Portugal is facing some significant challenges. From corruption and scandal to immigration and housing, there are many complex issues at play. As voters head to the polls, they'll be weighing these factors carefully and deciding which party they trust to lead the country forward. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay informed.